Okay. Everyone, you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So today we are starting the second paragraph. The second paragraph of the Shema. Okay, where do we start? Okay, so this is in Parshas Eikev. It's a few chapters on in the Torah. And it says like this. There's a break, that Samech is a break. V'haya, if then you obey the commandments that I enjoin upon you this day. Let's try to get some tools. Where are my tools gone? Up here. I put them at the bottom, but okay. Okay, so we're over here. So if you're going to listen to Es Mitzvah Isai, if you obey the commandments that I enjoin upon you today, loving the Lord your God and serving Him with all your heart and all your soul, I'll give you rain in its land, early rain, late rain. Gather in your new grain, wine and oil. Provide grass in the field for your cattle, and you will eat your fill.
Sorry, Rabbi.
Yes.
If I may ask, you call this the second paragraph.
Yes.
But if you look at the three paragraphs, you've got second paragraph Bahaya, your third paragraph, but the first paragraph is actually made up of three different paragraphs, because Shema Yisrael is its own, Baruch is its own, and Ba'ahafta is its own. They're all their own extracts from the Torah itself.
So hang on a second, Greg. Okay, if you look in the Torah, so then the first paragraph, Hafta, is its own paragraph. Look, here's a pay, right? So there's a gap in the Torah over here. So this is going back to the first paragraph. So
my question is,
there's a gap here.
Why is Shema
There's a gap here, right? So now it starts Shema Yisrael. Then it goes for 7 psukim. This is all one. This is all one. What's called parsha, because here again there is there's a break. Now, what's confusing, or why are you asking your question, is because even though this in the Torah looks like one paragraph, and it is one paragraph, but we add in a verse over here, the Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Va'ed. And that's what we studied at the time, right? Yaakov said it, Jacob said it, Moses didn't say it. That's why we add it with silently. But that's why it looks like Shema stands by itself, the very first verse. Then Baruch Shem, right? Baruch Shem, and then the rest. But the truth is, it's not. It's all one paragraph with a verse thrown in there because of the tradition. So that's why this is called the first paragraph of the Shema. Then
I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Now we today are now looking late. So that's Deuteronomy 6:5. Remember that for your test. And then Deuteronomy 11:4, Parshas Eikev. There's also we have another what's called Parsha, right? Problem is we don't, right? There's a break there. So Vahaya is the beginning, and it goes down, and it goes down to it's 11 psukim, okay, to here. That's Samach, the Stuma. So it's this is considered the second paragraph of the Shema, from there and up, okay, to where we are. I could get it all on one screen. Actually, if I just put it in the Hebrew, it will go to one screen. Just to show you. Okay, there you have it. Okay, all on one screen for you. This is the second paragraph of the Shema. Okay, capish?
Kapesh.
Okay, great.
Actually, Kol Beseda.
Okay, great.
Alles mooi.
Okay, hello Abraham. I'm glad you made it with the change of password. Just making sure you guys are alert. Okay. Now, let's just look quickly at what these words are saying. So we started them a bit. Here we are. This is the second parsha, second paragraph of the Shema. And it's really about, if you listen and to the commandments, then God will bless you. If you don't, God's going to schmeitz you. And you won't have the rain and the blessing. And in fact, you'll be thrown off the land. Then at the end, it says, you should put these words on your heart, on your soul. You should bind them as tefillin. You should teach them to your children. You should write them on your doorposts in order that your life and the life of your children will be on the land that God has promised you. And we are so thrilled and honored to have Adam with us tonight, honoring the covenant of living in the land. Okay.
My honor to be here.
As an introduction to the second paragraph, we need to go back to a Mishnah. Let's try and draw this whole thing. Let's see. Oh yeah, I could do that. Okay, we need to go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, says Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, Lama kadma pasha Shema levahaya im Shema. Why the order? Why do we recite the Shema before Vahaya im Shema? And many have a problem with this question because why not? Shema came four chapters earlier in the Torah to Vahaya im Shema. Anyway, there are very technical answers. I don't want to get into them. One of them is, I guess I am getting into them. One of them is that the second paragraph we will notice is in the language of plural, whereas the first paragraph was in the language of the singular. And since it's prayer, it's part of the prayer service, we should really have put the plural before the individual, the singular. Anyway, the order's not like that. So why is it, says Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, Kedei sheyikabel alav ol malchus shamayim techila, in order that you should accept upon yourself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven first, v'achikach mekabel alav all mitzvot, the all mitzvahs. So the second, if you had to, if we want to look for what is the second paragraph all about, the Mishnah is telling us it's something called the yoke of the mitzvot. We accept upon ourselves basically we mekabel, accept, we mekabel on ourselves when we recite the second parsha, the mitzvot. Now the mitzvot, the word mitzvah comes from commandment, and that's really what it's about. Oops, where did we go? Yep, over here, right? And those are the beginning words. If you will listen to my mitzvot. We didn't hear anything about mitzvot in the first parsha. So now we're talking about mitzvot. So in terms of this change from Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shemaim, accepting the yoke of the kingdom of heaven and now accepting the yoke of the mitzvot, I think it's very clear. The first parsha is about identity. It's about who we are. Shema Yisrael, right? Moses says, you are a Yisrael. You stand for bringing, you stand for the covenantal relationship between, I think I actually wrote it down nicely earlier. Did I write it? Sorry, hang on. The first paragraph is our identity. You are a Yisrael in a covenant with God to bring about the honor of his kingship. meaning that we should become an exemplary nation living in God's land, following God's ways, and showered with God's blessings. That is the fulfillment of the Jewish people. Once again, thank you to Adam for fulfilling that for us. That's a question of identity. Now we're moving into, okay, I know who I am. I know what my mission is. What do I do? What do I do now? So those are the mitzvot. These are the instructions from God, the commandments from God, which really are the practical expression of the covenant. This is how we should live. We should follow in God's ways. This is what we need to do. So this is why this parsha is called the Kabbalah's all mitzvahs, accepting upon yourself the yoke of the mitzvot. And that's why there's consequence, right? That's why immediately after Moses telling us, listen, here, accept upon yourself the mitzvahs of God, immediately it's, and God will put, there'll be rain in its season, you'll have rain, you'll be blessed. You'll be tremendously blessed. You'll be showered with God's blessing. Take great care, do not be lured away, because then you're going to be, the blessings will go away, and worse than that, you'll be thrown off the land. There's consequence. The first parsha, identity, that's not a question of consequence, that's a question of who we are. Right? Identify as a Yisrael, as a Jewish person, and what your mission is. Accept that upon yourself. Now, practically speaking, do you, in the practical world, how do you do this? This is how you do it. And because it's practical, there are practical consequences. Okay, so that's what the Ramchal Lutzoto calls Hanhagas Hayichud Vanhagas Skava Einish, which means like this: God really has two ways of running the world. The most simple way is this way. We do the mitzvot, so then we get blessing. We don't do the mitzvot, we get punished. God is our life coach. God is the ultimate life coach that knows exactly who we are, what we're doing, and what we need in order to bring out the best in us. But then there's something which is a bit deeper, which is really the first paragraph, and that is, what's it? Okay, fine, we're doing God's mitzvahs, we're not doing God's mitzvahs, but what's the point of it? Where's it all leading to? It's leading to the revelation of God's oneness over the entire world. That also everything is leading towards. So that's really the first paragraph. This is the second paragraph. Okay, let's start analyzing what it says over here. Okay, so it will be, right? Even the way that the mitzvah is, that Moses says to listen, you should listen to the mitzvah, it's in the terms of consequence. V'haya im, and it shall be if. That means this is consequential. If you surely listen to the mitzvah, again, you've been commanded today. This is you wake up in the morning, it's a brand new day. You should look at them. Always a freshness. Li'ahava es Hashem Elokeichem. To love Hashem your God, and to serve Him with your entire heart and your soul. So, says Rashi comes along over here, and he might be I think he's a little bothered about, isn't this a repetition to the first paragraph? Meaning, okay, everyone, don't get scared. You can do this yourself on your own computer if you know how. But I'm going to split the screen here a little and just show you the comparison. So let's get out of here. Right. I think I'm just going to go into the English if you don't mind. Just because that's the common denominator. Okay, so let's look at what it says over here. Okay, this is where it starts. If then you obey the commandments that I enjoy in you today, loving your Lord your God and serving him with all your heart and all your soul. Well, what did it say over here? Hear, O Israel, the Lord is a God, and you shall love God with all your heart and all your soul. Isn't that telling us the same thing? This is repetitious, right? We saw that in the first part. This is the first chapter of the first paragraph of the Shema. So what's this coming to do over here? So Rashi seems to answer this. Says Rashi, sorry, I need to go back into the Hebrew a little bit, yeah. Okay, that's Ramban we'll get to. Yeah, the Rashi. Let's move us over there. Okay. Li'ahava es Hashem, to love God. This means that you should not say, well, I will learn, but in order that I may become rich, right? Many a kollel Jungelite, right? Let me learn to become rich in order that I may obtain the title of rabbi, in order that I may receive a prize. Meaning, since we're now talking about the mitzvot, and they are consequential, that's the whole idea of a mitzvah, that these are the working parts of creation. That's what a mitzvah is. Every mitzvah is a consequence. But right? So don't say, don't, rather than say, you know what, I'm going to keep the mitzvot for the consequence, but whatever you whatever you do it out of love for God. And ultimately, the honor which you desire will come. Meaning that I remember growing up, and my father, it's like Zimken Stark, he should be well. My father, I grew up in the, oops, it's my Candy Crush, let me close that quickly. I grew up in the 80s, and it's funny, my son, Shlomo, a 12-year-old, had an assignment, 13-year-old, sorry, had an assignment to, he's at a non-Jewish school, and he had an assignment to find songs which define the baby boomer generation. Some of you might be baby boomers. The X generation, which I come from, and then his generation. And it wasn't so easy. Yes. So when we were growing up in the X generation, I think we grew up in a very, it was kind of post-political, post-movement. It became very materialistic. It became very, very physical. And, we wanted to make money, became the sole goal of our existence, because with that you could have as much fun as you wanted. And I remember asking my father many times, why doesn't he do more things to make more money? She's surprising because we actually had a lot of money. But he would answer, you do what you're passionate about. You help the world. My father was an engineer his entire life. He built some fantastic civil engineer. He built some fantastic places in South Africa. Actually, who's there? Barry, did you know that my father was the engineer for the what's that road called, Mom? If you don't want to go on the highway from Sea Point to Deval Drive.
Deval Drive.
Deval
Drive. He built it. He built Deval Drive.
Yeah, when they made it two parts.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah.
What it looked like before.
Yeah. So that was
amazing. He did that. Wow.
Yeah, he was a civil engineer. So he would say, do what you're passionate about, and the money will come. So the same thing, right? That we are what's this verse telling us? We're starting off with the Kabbalah's all mitzvahs. We've just spoken about identity. Now we're speaking about accept upon yourself the practicalities of Judaism. And because they're practicalities, they are consequential. Things are going to happen because of them. And that's telling you over here, really good things are going to happen to you. The verse cautions us. Yeah, but don't do them for the money. Don't do it for the money. Do it as an expression of your love for God. That's the understanding over here in the Rashi. If you want to see that more, look at the Guaria, the Maharal. It explains Rashi like that, which is a beautiful explanation because it works perfectly into the theme of this parsha, which is accepting upon yourself the mitzvahs. Okay. Now,
is that this son?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, Dad.
Hello.
Okay. Hello.
You know,
we just spoke about you and the whole drive.
It's in the middle of a lecture.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay. Now, it says you should do these mitzvahs as an expression of what? Loving God and serving Him with all your heart and all your soul. So it's actually it's quite relevant to Rosh Hashanah, this point. To serve God, to be a servant of God. Any of us with South African roots will find that a very difficult idea to stomach. Why, me, a servant? I'm not a servant. I have servants. We are not people that we don't like servitude. So the understanding of this has to start from. Let's start from the other side. What are we doing for God when we serve Him? You know, our connotation of a servant, of an Eved, of a slave, is that they are there for the sole benefit, use of the master. Right? They've kind of lost their life. Their life is meaningless for itself. They're there just to serve the whims, desires, and tea and biscuits at 4 p.m. of the master. Is that what it means for God? So first of all, the verse in Job, what does Job say? So it's actually Elihu says, he says, now where am I? Let's see. 8, right? No, Job 35, that's why. Over here. Okay. Im Tzedakta, beautiful verse. So I don't know who's speaking now. Elihu, great, he's still speaking. This is one of Job's friends, and he says to him, Im Tzedakta, matitin lo. Yeah, really, it must have been in Israeli. Yeah, if you are righteous, if you've done tzedek, if you have done what is correct, matitin lo. What have you done for Him? Meaning, what have you given God? Or ma miyadacha yikach. What does He receive from your hand? And the Meforshim go through what the different two aspects are. But really, of course, what can we do for God? We can't do anything for God. So what does it mean to serve God if God doesn't get anything from our service? If God doesn't need us, God doesn't benefit from us, He's perfect being. There's no benefit whatsoever. So the answer must be that that it's really part of what we've been speaking about. Meaning, our mission as the Jewish people is to bring about what's called Malchus Shamayim, the kingdom of heaven, of God. That there should be a revelation in this world of God. That's why we're the Jewish people. We're put on earth. Our mission is to bring God into this world. Okay? Once again, an exemplary nation living in God's land, living in God's ways and showered with God's blessings. That's our mission. Now, the service that's really God's plan. That's God's mission. You know, imagine the Marshal Amad Avadima, what is it similar to? Let's say that you were second in command to Elon Musk, right? He's building up Tesla and every other crazy idea that he has, but the guy's a genius and he's got good ideas that seem to be working, and you're second in command. And your job is to really do the work, right? To put into practice all of his ideas. And the more that you try, you just can't outsmart him. He's got the best ideas. So what do? Eventually, in humility, you say, you know what? Yeah, I would like to see a world that is fixed. I would like to see a perfected world. But I don't really know how. Or my idea about it is futile compared to God's idea. So I become an Eved. I subjugate myself to God's plan for creation. And God says, and that's Malchus Shemayim. That means that we bring about this revelation as God as the king, right? Ein melech b'lo am, there's no such thing as a king without a people. It's only because that's really what we are doing. That's our mission. So that's our service of God. We're serving God's plan. Ultimately, that's the greatest thing that we could do, right? And probably the second in command to Elon Musk earns more. Let's say you wanted a job for money's sake, because you're an ex-gen or after person, and right, probably the second in command to Elon Musk earns more money than all of us are earning today put together. It's much more valuable than anything we could do. So that's what it means. That's what it means that we should serve God, right? It's not a negation of self. It's not a negation of being used by God. All those connotations that we have are very negative, and they are negative. It's because it doesn't mean that. It just means we subjugate ourselves actually willingly. That's the crazy thing about this whole system, is that there's a willingness involved, willingly to do God's bidding, because we realize that's the greatest mission possible, and that's what we call in Hebrew schus, that's our greatest merit. So okay, so that's this first sentence. So once again, it's not a repeat of the first paragraph. It's telling you that now that you're going to do the mitzvahs, do them as an expression of your identity rather than your selfish desire to get the benefits therein. Now, just a note, the Ramban Nachmanides points out that this is in the plural, like we said before. This is all in the plural, and I'll get you guys on the side again. No, not there. There. Oops. You see me? No. Put this way. That way. Okay. Says the Ramban, this is in the plural, and that which it says over here, that you will have rain in its time, and you'll gather in your crops, and you will have food for your animals, and you'll eat and be satisfied, meaning God will shower his blessings upon you, says Nachmanides, that's when it's plural. When the service of God, when the keeping of the mitzvot are done by most of the people, so then these things will happen. Individually, meaning that's a national consequence. That's a national consequence. Can you look forward to this in your private life? No, you cannot. Says the Nachmanides, what happens in your private life, how much parnasa you get, how many children, your longevity, that's got to do with mazel. That's God's plan. That's your destiny. Can you change them? Yeah, you can. You can change them slightly, but largely we are locked into those aspects for personal life. But in terms of national life and how the two go together, we've got to figure that out. But in national life, for sure, if most Jews would accept upon themselves this way of living and do it, we would be in Israel with these blessings. Okay. Says Rashi, an interesting point over here. Rashi asks like this. He says, okay, fine, you're telling me it should be an expression of my love for God and my service of God. What exactly is Ola Avdei B'chol Levavchem? How do you serve God? How do you serve God with your heart? So Rashi says, it's a famous Rashi, says Rashi, avoida shehi belev, zuhi tefillah. The subjugation which is in the heart is prayer. And he goes on to say, shetfila kroya avoida, because that we find that is what prayer is often called, a service of God. So, again, a lot of the time we might look at our prayers as beseeching God for the things that we want. We pray for healing, pray for parnasa, pray for shalom bayis, we pray for everything. Really, the point of prayer is, it is that, but there's also a point of prayer, maybe a deeper point of prayer called avodah shebelev, where we subjugate ourselves to God's purpose, to God's vision for this world. And that's what we do through the prayers, where we basically, if you think about it, we actually do a lot of praising of God. We praise God and say, God, you are our King, you are our God. And therefore, the things that we need are really to further our mission, right? We pray, God, it should never be give me all these things for my own sake. Give them to me for your sake, meaning for your purpose to carry out this mission. Okay, that is the avodah of the lave. Now, I don't know how to read this according to that Rashi before. Let's try together. So the first sentence says like this: if you will surely listen to the mitzvot that I command you today, li ahava, meaning that the mitzvah should be done for, or as an expression of the love you have for God, and the service you have for God, as an expression of you being subjugated to God with all your heart and all your soul. So the prayer aspect over here, that this is specifically prayer. I guess what we're saying is the mitzvahs that I command you today, all of the mitzvahs, should be an expression of your love for God and an expression of your service with all your heart. Which mitzvah is an expression of your service with all your heart? That Rashi is saying is prayer. That's really what we're doing with our praying, is really to put God front and center and realize that we are on the side, and we're now doing the mitzvot. This is practical living. We are going to do the things which will bring about the Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shemayim, the revelation of God's kingdom. Okay, folks, that's today's blurb. Anyone have any questions, comments?
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Can I just ask you one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
In the next paragraph, it says, oh, you've just turned it off. It doesn't
Oh, sorry. So you wanted to read it? I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. That God will provide rain for the fields and rain for the cattle, and
Yes.
I wish God would provide some rain here in Los Angeles to put out the fires.
Yes.
Okay,
We need
now-
most of the Jews in the world to keep the mitzvahs for that to happen.
Most of the Jews in the world, what?
To keep the mitzvot.
So when we keep the mitzvot, are we praying at the same time for things like that, like rain? I mean, I've heard people say, I'm going to pray for rain.
Yes.
There are a lot of people in South Africa used to say it, when there was a drought. I remember, we'll pray for rain, and then the gods, open the skies.
God. All right.
Anyway, is that all part and parcel of it?
Yes, that is part and parcel of the, definitely that's a part of our, at least in the land of Israel. At least in the land of Israel, it's saying that your well-being is dependent on your keeping of the mitzvot and your prayer, which is a specific mitzvah over here.
But why would it just be specifically in the land of Israel? Surely to Jews all over the world.
Well, this is really speaking about on the land. The question is if Jews in the rest of the world are in their own domain, or are they under the domain of the host nation? It could be the way that God thinks about the Democrats in California, right? No, it's a tongue-in-cheek. But really, the Jews in America are under the guidance, the hashgacha, the providence of, are underneath the providence of America, not necessarily the Jews.
The Jews in America,
right,
are under the providence of
America, not so much the Jews. It's more about the Americans than the Jews in America.
Right, we'll discuss this later. We don't have to.
Yes, this is a very long and in-depth conversation. Thank you, everyone. Lovely to see you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good Shabbos.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good Shabbos.
Thank you. Bye.
See you Tuesday night.